Welcome everyone. This is Debbie Mayberry with National Kitchen and Bath Association. You're here for our second webinar of the month called 3D Design Software, How to Get Started Easily. Philip Gibney is our presenter. He's with Marketing and Sales with Chief Architect Software. I also want to give a shout out to Gebert for sponsoring all of our webinars for the month of November. And Philip, if you are there, we are ready to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Welcome, everyone. We're excited that you can join us today. And as Debbie had mentioned, my name is Philip, and I'm with Chief Architect Software. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Chief Architect's the leading developer and publisher of 3D home design software with a strong emphasis on what you guys do, which is going to be kitchen, bath, cabinetry, and interior design. And in this webinar, we're going to show how easy it is to use 3D design software and how it can lead to a faster workflow for creating floor plans, elevations, sections, 3D views, and more, and how you can use 3D rendering technology to help communicate the design to your clients and sell the job. We're going to start off this webinar by using the actual software to create a kitchen design. And we're first going to create our initial kitchen floor plan and then take a look at how cabinetry works in the software and what makes a manufacturer cabinet a manufacturer or a custom cabinet. We'll then add a custom backsplash. We'll create a wall elevation with dimensions, and there's some really neat automated features that help with that process. We'll then add an island and show how you can create 4 various design options for the client really quickly using the software. And throughout the demonstration, we'll be using 3D rendering, and we'll also take a look at some other technology options to help sell the job to the client. So here I am in the software. Up at the top of the screen, you have your architectural design tools, and these are going to be things like walls, doors, windows, cabinets, and so forth. These toolbars are completely customizable for a workflow that works best for you. So to get started, we're going to draw the initial shape of the design. And to do that, I'm going to come over to our wall tools and select the straight interior wall. And as I'm drawing it, you'll see that I get a little temporary dimension. This is the software helping guiding you in determining the shape of the room. We'll come back and look at some other ways we can dimension the room a little bit. And once I've connected all 4 walls, that room is formed. And now we need to input dimensions, and there's a couple ways you can do that. The first is if you're physically out there in the field measuring a room, you can have the software on a laptop and synchronize it with a Bluetooth laser and capture your dimensions directly into the software without having to manually type in your measurements or use any third-party apps to transfer your measurements in. So that's just a quick process to get those measurements in and make sure that they're accurate. Additionally, you can just manually type in your dimensions, and that's what I'm going to do in our case. So I'm going to select this wall on the right-hand side, and you'll notice that when I selected it, that temporary dimension comes up, and it's already in inches, and it's picking up from our interior wall surface to interior wall surface. And the reason for that is Chief Architect comes with a template specifically for kitchen and bath designers with settings optimized for interior design, with our dimensions formatted in inches and picking up surfaces being just a couple of those settings. So next I'm going to select that dimension and type in a new value, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this wall down here. So there I've got that room, my desired size, and then next let's take a 3D view. So if I come up to this toolbar at the top, there's a lot of 3D view options available. 3D views are a great way to help your client visualize the design that you're creating for them. I'm going to be using this perspective floor overview, which is kind of like a bird's eye view, and it intentionally has the ceiling removed so that you can look into the design and see what's going on. And you can see that with those 4 walls connected, the program has formed a room, and the program's smart enough to recognize that in a room you would have flooring and a molding in that room. We can also select in this room, and when I do that, in the bottom toolbar, there's more ways that we can interact with this room. So I'm going to open up this rooms dialog. And here in the middle of the screen, we open up the room specification. and you can tell the program what type of room type is going to be used here. And I'm going to tell the program that this room is going to be a kitchen. And what we're doing here is defining the room type. And this is important because the program has other smart design features that help automate the design process based on the room type that you have selected, such as our dimensions, or more permanent dimensions, I should say, being formatted in inches, and it'll also update our flooring. Off to the right-hand side over here, you'll notice a graphic with structural information about this room. As a kitchen and bath designer, you probably need to be aware of the height of your room going from your finished floor to your finished ceiling. If we go over to this Structure tab on the left-hand side, you can input structural information about the room here. And if I hover my mouse over these various input fields, the software, that graphic on the right highlights those various dimensions in red, making it easy to recognize the changes we're going to make to this room. I'm going to go ahead and just leave our structural information how it is and press on OK. You can see how that when I do that, the flooring material updates. And if you take a look in our floor plan view, we now have more permanent dimensions going throughout our plan and our room label as well. Next, let's go back to our 3D view. You can work in both 2D and 3D views in the software, and your corresponding views automatically get updated. You don't have to do any extra work for that. And next, we're going to add a window into the room. So to do that, you just go up to your window tool, select it, and you'll see a little window outlined in the wall indicating where we'll place it. And when I click once that window is placed, you can edit this directly in your 3D view. So if you select it, you'll notice I get little temporary dimensions going around it. The software is making it easy for us to recognize this window size. And we can also change the size using these little handles going around the window. So let's just go ahead and resize that just slightly to demonstrate it. If we double click on this window, you can open up the window specification, and here you can change the type of window that you're using. You'll also notice that there's a 3D view that updates with any changes that you make. We're not going to make any changes to this window. And then on the left-hand side, there's other components of this window that you can change the style of. So if you wanted to change the casing, you would just select a new casing from the library, and then you can change the size of it. You can change information about the lintel, the sill, sash, and so forth. So really easy to edit these type of objects in Chief Architect. I'm going to go ahead and accept this window for how it is. If you go back to your floor plan view, you'll notice that the software has automatically added another dimension string indicating the window size. And that dimension is actually picking up from our casing to casing, our interior casing to interior casing, I should say. And then you can also update this window's position relative to this wall on the left. Notice how this dimension is currently in blue. If I select the window, that dimension turns a gray color, indicating that we can modify it and update that window's position. So then I'm just going to select on this value, type in my new desired value, and press enter. And then that window is going to shift to the appropriate spot in that wall. So next I want another copy of this window on the other side over here. We don't have to add another window and change the size of it or anything like that. We can press this button that says copy in our bottom toolbar, and then that brings up a submenu with more edit tools. And one of those tools is going to be called Reflect About Object. And then when I come into the program, you can see that I get a gray dashed line indicating that we're going to be reflecting it about the center of the room. And there we've got that window on the other side over there. So really easy to add those and quickly get them configured in your floor plan. As a kitchen and bath designer, you probably start adding cabinetry and appliances into your design focused around your corners and room centers. You can see that in the center of this room, I have a range with a hood. So let's go ahead and add these items next. So if I open up my library browser and then go over to the manufacturer catalogs, there's going to be hundreds of manufacturers that Chief Architect partners with to get their content available in the program. And I'm just going to go down to Wolf. I'm going to select a gas range, and then I'm just going to pick one from the catalog. You can see that we get a little 3D preview as to what it looks like. And then I'm going to click once in the plan to place it. And you'll notice there that the software has automatically added another dimension line. And this one's actually a center line dimension, indicating the center of that range. So next, we want that range to be centered in the room, and you can select the range and then figure out what the difference is between these two dimensions and update its position. But since we're using software, we're going to let the software do that math for us by using our center object tool. We get that gray dash line indicating the center of the room. And then we've got that range directly centered in the room. And you can see how that looks in our 3D view. So next, let's go ahead and add the corresponding hood for the range. And to do that, I'm going to go over to the library browser. And if I come down here, you'll see a folder that says User Catalog. In the software, you can custom create objects and save them in your user catalog for quick access. You can also store items that you just regularly use here. For this demonstration, I've got a folder that we're going to be using some items from. So I've got a hood in there I'm going to use. Click to place it in the plan, and then next just make sure I have it centered over the range. So that's going to be the work we do for the center of the room and the range, but next let's take a look at how cabinetry works in Chief Architect. So to get started, I'm going to go up to our cabinet and kitchen and bath features in the software, and I'm going to select this base cabinet, and then you can see that little gray preview as to where I'm going to place it. And when I place it, the cabinet automatically has a door, a drawer, hardware, and a countertop on it. So what makes a manufacturer cabinet or a custom cabinet in Chief Architect is by directly applying offerings from the manufacturer onto the cabinet. So going back into the library browser, I'm going to go up to our Wellborn manufacturer. You can see that there's a few lines they provide us with. And then within that line, there's a lot of different offerings that you can apply to this cabinet. I'm just going to go to this folder that says Door Styles. Come down to the door style that I want. Click on the door style. You can see how that looks in our little 3D preview. And then watch what happens with my mouse icon as I bring it into the plan. It's going to change, and as I bring it over to the cabinet door, it changes again, indicating that I can swap out our current door on the cabinet with this newly selected door. So there we've updated the door, and then we would just do the same thing with the drawer. And there we have the door and the drawer style updated. And then you'll recall from the photo of the finished design that we have a different material applied to the cabinet. So let's go ahead and add that next. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit. And I'm going to go to this folder that says Wood, Species, and Finishes. And here's a wood species that Wellborn offers. I'm just going to go to this oak material. You can see that there's an unfinished material, and I'm going to select that. And again, watch what happens to my mouse as I bring it into the plan. It updates to a little spray can indicating that I can apply this material in the plan. And in the bottom left-hand corner, there's different scoping modes for distributing this material. And I'm going to change it to be object-wide so that when we click on the cabinet, we're going to update this white material on the entire cabinet. And there we've got our oak material applied on the cabinet. And then you'll recall from that photo that the wood grain was stained a darker color. So to do that, you just go over to your stains and glazes, find a stain that you want, and then again, watch what happens to my mouse. The software is giving us feedback that we're going to make a change, and our mouse is actually kind of a rolling pin indicating that we'll be blending our darker material with that wood grain. And there we've got that cabinet updated. So next I need to match the drawer pull with our door handle. So to do that, in my user catalog, I've already got those particular items saved. So I'm just going to come down here. Once again, the software is giving us feedback that we're making a change. And then the last thing I'm going to do is change our countertop material. So in that user catalog, I have a folder with a material from Cambria, and I'm just going to place it on the cabinet. So once you have this cabinet designed how you would like to, you can select it and click on this option that says Set as Default. And when you do that, that's now the default base cabinet for the plan. And any future base cabinets you add will be based off this style that we just created. If you knew you would reuse this cabinet again in future plans, you can click on this button down here that says Add to Library. It's going to add that cabinet to your user library, and it's readily going to be available to you for use in future plans. So great way to create something once, save it, and then you don't have to do that work again in future plans, and it's just there and ready to go. So next, let's go ahead and I'm going to delete this cabinet. I'm going to close our library browser for the time being, and then I'm going to add a cabinet over into our corner. So I'm going to go up to our cabinet tools, and then watch what happens as I push this cabinet into the corner. The software is going to update the shape of that cabinet since it's going to be a corner cabinet. And there we've got it placed. And then next, if you take a look at a photo of the completed design, there's going to be a series of base cabinets on either side of this corner cabinet. And just for simplicity, these are all going to be the same cabinet style with poles. So let's go ahead and make a few adjustments here. So I'm going to come in and just place that cabinet right next to it. I'm going to rotate my 3D view just slightly. If I select this cabinet, we get those same temporary dimensions and edit handles we learned how to use earlier. So I'm just going to resize this to 33 inches. And you'll notice there that the software is resizing that in 3-inch increments for us. Once I release it, another change you'll notice that the software automatically does is it changes that single door from being 33 inches wide to making it a set of double doors, since you probably wouldn't have very many cabinets that would ever be have a door that's 33 inches wide. Next, let's go ahead and change this cabinet to have those set of drawers. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on it to open it up. And in this dialog, we can completely customize this cabinet. So here you can change information about the height and size of it if you wanted to manually input other information. So if you wanted to change that depth to be 36 inches or any other value, you can change that. In Chief Architect, countertops automatically generate on top of your cabinet box, and those have a uniform overhang. You can also change those on a per side basis if you would like. You can have cabinets automatically generate backsplashes, and then on the left there's different ways you can interact with this cabinet. So you can change the box construction to be framed or frameless, or have an overlay or be inset. On this front sides back panel is how you can change the face, the sides, or the back of the cabinet, and we'll come back and take a look at this here in a second. On the door drawer panel, you can change out your default door drawer styles being used and hardware options. You can add accessories to it, change the moldings, and we'll take a look at the moldings a little bit later on when we work with our wall cabinets. And then there's other miscellaneous ways you can interact with the cabinet. So let's go ahead and change this cabinet to have a bank of drawers. And what I can do is I can actually select on these doors in our little preview, and it's going to jump us to our front sides back panel. And in the middle here, you can see how this cabinet face is configured, where we have that drawer, separations, and then the doors. Notice how it's highlighted. If I click on the drawer, that highlight jumps to the drawer. And if I click on this door, down below, you can change the item type to a lot of other common cabinet item face items. And then you can also change the height of this individual item as well. Here, kind of in the middle of the screen, there's different ways for interacting with it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these doors. It just creates an opening in this space. You can see that change updates here in the middle. And then I'm going to click on that opening and delete that as well. And the software automatically fills that space with one large drawer. And so next we need to split this up into 4 separate drawers. So I'm going to select it. And you'll notice here that there's a button that says Split Face Item Horizontally. When I click that, it splits it in half. I'm going to click that 2 more times. And there we've got 4 face items on this cabinet, and they're all drawers. And you'll notice as I click on these various face items that they're different heights. So you could do the math and figure out, okay, what's the height of all these combined, and then divide that by 4, and then change them all individually. But we're using software, so we're going to let that software do that math for us. We're going to click on this option at the top that says Vertical Layout Parent. We're we're going to click on this button that says Equalize, and that's just automatically going to adjust these drawers to all be the same height. So a great way that the software is going to do all the miscellaneous work for you, and it's going to make your design workflow a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and click OK on this cabinet, and then next I'm going to place a copy of it right there, and I'm going to press this button that says Copy and Paste in place, and then just pull out our copy. And then next we need 2 more copies of these cabinets on the other side right here. So what we're going to do is we are going to hold Control, select both those cabinets, and then press our Copy, Reflect About object, and I'm going to get my gray dash line to go just about the face of that diagonal edge. And there we've got those cabinets on the other side over here. So next we need to add some wall cabinets. And these wall cabinets are going to have 2 different door styles. The top half is going to be glass, and then the bottom half is going to be what we're currently using. And then we'll also take a look at the molding up here as well. So to add our wall cabinet, you just go up to your cabinetry tools, select wall cabinet, and then click to place it on the wall. And then you can come in here and adjust the size of it just like we did with the base cabinet. You'll notice again that those doors update to be a set of double doors. Next, let's double click on that cabinet to open it up. And we've already learned how we get different face items on the cabinet. So we can click on these doors. We're going to split it. And then next we need to tell the program what the height of our top door section is. You'll recall from the photo that this is going to be much smaller than our lower section. So I'm going to input my desired height for this particular item right here. The software is going to update it for us. And then next, to change the door style that we're using independently of the lower section, with this upper section selected, there's a button right here that says Appliance Door Drawer Specify. And when you click on this, you're going to be modifying the door style for just that upper section. So I'm going to click on this button that says Library, and then we already learned how to find manufacturer cabinetry content earlier. You just repeat that process again by going down to your door styles, and then I'm going to select this decorative door which has glass. Click on OK. The rendering technique we're using here is a vector view, but we can change that to a standard view. And you can see that glass and look into the cabinet. And then we also need to update the handle that we're using. So I'm going to come over here to Door Handle and click on Library. And then once again, just go to your folder and find the desired handle that you would like to use. So there I've got that handle updated. If I press OK and then press OK again, we can confirm those changes for our 3D view. And then next, let's modify the molding. So I'm going to open up that cabinet. And then I'm going to go to this panel right here that says Moldings. And we can navigate to take a look at the back of this cabinet to take a look at what's going on with the molding. So here you can see I have a molding on the cabinet. And you can change the height of it. You can change the offset. You can see a preview of the profile right here. And then you can also add new moldings, delete them, replace them, and add them to your user library. So what we're going to do is add another molding, adjust the size of it, make it a stack, and then add it to our user library to use again in future plans. So the first step there is to click on this button that says Add New. And then it opens up our library browser. The program comes with hundreds of molding options, and you can also custom create your own and import your own molding profiles if you already have them in CAD files. And this opens up the library browser context sensitive to just moldings. So we wouldn't be selecting any sort of cabinet door styles or materials or anything else like that. The software is going to make it easy to pick out a molding and not something else. And what we're looking for here is just the general shape of the molding, and then we'll come back and adjust the size. So I'm going to pick out this rectangular molding and click on OK. You can see where it's at in our little panel. And then from here you can adjust the size of it. I'm pressing Tab there to navigate to different fields in the menu. And then I'm going to adjust the offset as well. You can see that's not positioned correctly yet. So to do that, you just click on the offset field and then just tab through and update your offset. You can see how we now have it stacked on top of the other one, And then to truly form them together as a stack, you would hold Control. There's a button right here that says Make Stack, and watch what happens over here when I click on that button. The software recognizes them as a single stacked unit. You can see that our preview there updates. And then if you know you would use this molding profile again in future plans, click Add to Library. It's readily there in your user library, and you don't have to create it again. I'm going to click OK to confirm those changes. And then next I need to adjust our material on the wall cabinets. And to do that, I'm going to use a tool here called the Material Eyedropper. And what this tool does is, you can see that it changes the little eyedropper icon, is it lets you pick up a material off of your base cabinets, and then you can apply that material you selected to other objects in your plan. So next, let's add our cabinets in. I'm going to come up here to our wall cabinet tool, push it into the corner there. The software, I forgot to tell the program that this cabinet style is our default, so let's do that. The program lets us know it's the default, and then when I push this into the corner, it's based off of that default setting. So let's continue to add these cabinets. I'm just going to push this one up against it, add one more right here, and then add our final one against this wall over here. And then let's go ahead and resize that to fit on this wall. And that's going to be adding the cabinets. And one cool thing is, you'll notice that the software is automatically regenerating the molding around the top of these cabinets. We don't have to do any extra work to get that molding there. And if I open this cabinet and make modifications to it, the molding is going to automatically regenerate. So if I were to give this a bow of 3 inches, curve the cabinet, you can see how that molding curves as well. And then if I open up this cabinet, uncheck this option right here, it says Dialog, it's going to become a pie cut cabinet. And the molding automatically regenerates as well. So the great way the software is being smart, recognizing that our moldings need to go around our cabinets, and just automatically doing that. So next, let's get a copy of these cabinets on the other side over here. We've already learned how to do that using that Copy Reflect About tool. So I'm holding Control to select all of these. Copy, Reflect About. We can go about the center of our range. And there we have all those cabinets on the other side there. So next, let's add the backsplash that you see in our photo here. Really easy to do that in Chief Architect. You go up to your cabinetry and kitchen tools. There's an option for custom backsplash. And then you just come down to the section of wall that you want to place it on. Click once, and the program's automatically going to place that backsplash where you need it. And one of the cool things about the software is you'll notice that it is cutting around our window. It's not merging through it or anything like that. If I move that window, the software automatically regenerates to cut around that window. So a great way that backsplash tool is smart and places your backsplash where you would commonly need it. So next, let's take a wall elevation of this wall over on the north side and then dimension it. If you take a look at a photo, the software can create layout sheets. We're not going to go through the process of creating the layout sheet in this demonstration in the essence of time. But here on the layout sheets, you can assemble your various elevations and notes, 3D views, floor plans, schedules, and so forth to create these layout sheets. We're going to be creating an elevation view similar to what you see here. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And the first step to do that is to go back to our floor plan view. And if we go up to our camera tools, there's a camera tool for wall elevation. And then you just click and point the camera at the wall you want to see an elevation of. And that elevation is a live reflection of your model. So if you make changes in your model, it updates your elevation. If you prefer not to see color, there's an option to toggle that color on or off. And then next, let's add those dimensions that you saw in the photo. There's about, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so dimensions going around this elevation. That's really easy to do and takes about a click of a button in the software. If we go up to our automatic dimension tools, there's a feature right here for NKBA auto elevation dimensions. And I'm going to click that, and it's going to place your dimensions typically where you would want them, and then you can come through here and modify them as you need to. So if we come over here, you'll notice that when I click on that dimension string, there's little diamond handles indicating the various objects that we're picking up. And if you didn't want your dimension string to read certain items like this window, for example, you can just click on that diamond, click and hold to drag it off, and there we've removed that dimension, and that string is updated. If you want to add dimensions, you can click on that string. There's an extra diamond handle. Just click and drag that into the plan, and you see that the program adds a dimension into our plan. So really fast to create these dimensions in the software, and then you could further notate it using the CAD tools and the text tools if you would need to. Next, let's create a custom backsplash. And we're going to create a backsplash inspired by this photo you see here. The backsplash is going to be kind of a bell-shaped, really powerful features in the software to create custom objects like backsplashes, tub platforms, and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to focus in on the back over here. And what I'm going to do is first turn off my color. There's a shortcut on your keyboard to do that. And then first we need to sketch out the shape of one of the sides of that backsplash. So I've got my CAD tool selected, just a straight CAD line, nothing special about it. And then I'm going to start off by dragging out this side. And then what we need to do is tell the program that we want the upper half of it to be curved different from the lower half. So to do that, there's a tool down here to split it. Notice how when I bring my cursor along that line, software is giving us feedback that, one, we're on the line, and two, notice how it changes there to a triangle indicating the center. Makes it easy to make these sort of edits in the software. And now we have the lower section that we can select and modify independent of the upper section. So we're going to go ahead and select the curve button in the bottom toolbar. You can see there's a little orange triangle handle that you can adjust the curve. You could also open up these independent sections and manually type in a radius if you needed to. So now that we have the one side curved how we would like it, we're going to do what we've already learned in copying and reflecting it to the other side. So there we've got that, that other CAD line on the other side. And then you'll notice that there's extra diamond handles here as well. We've already learned that you can use those handles to add things to your design. So what we're going to do is extend the line to the other side over here. What we've formed there is a solid CAD polyline. And then to convert this into a 3D object, in the bottom toolbar there's a button that says Convert. You select you want it to be a solid object. You can tell the backsplash how thick you want it to be. Click on OK. If you take a look, that solid object is now behind our range. And if you look in our 3D view, you can see how that's coming in. And then the last step in this bell-shaped backsplash is to pick your material. So I'm going to open up our library browser. And then in my user catalog, I have another material I'm going to be using from Cambria. And then you just click and place it on that custom backsplash. So really powerful features in the software to really tailor these designs you're creating for what your client's looking for. Next in the project, we are going to focus our attention over to this wall on the right-hand side. And we're going to add a microwave into this cabinet, and then we'll add a fridge, a partition, and then a wall cabinet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus our 3D view over here in this area of the plan. And then next I'm going to add the microwave directly from our user catalog. I'm going to be using a microwave from Genair. Click on the cabinet to place it, and before I do that, notice that my icon's changed, indicating I can make a change to this cabinet. That microwave gets placed, and we need to make a few modifications to this cabinet, so let's double click on it to open it up. We're going to click on these doors. We're going to change that to be a set of a drawer. And then we're going to move its position down in the cabinet. And then we have an extra separation we're going to move down as well. So if you're happy with how this cabinet looks, you can go ahead and accept that. And before we do that, actually, You'll notice in the photo that the partition is up against this cabinet, and if you look at what's happening with the countertop over on the side, is it's overhanging, so we need to remove that overhang. Super easy to do. You just go back to this general panel. There's an option here that says uniform. You uncheck that uniform drawing of the countertop, and on the right-hand side, you tell the program you want that overhang to be 0 inches. The countertop updates, and then that's going to complete adding the microwave. So next we're going to add partitions, a fridge, and then another wall cabinet. And in the essence of time, I already have these components saved to my user library as what's known as a architectural object. And an architectural object in the software is essentially multiple objects selected and grouped together. You press that button down there to group them. And then you can move them around as a single unit and add them to your user library as a single unit. So I'm going to select the fridge with those partitions from my user library, and then just come in and click once to place it. And there I've got those added. And then the next step is to make sure we get them positioned against this wall appropriately. So I'm going to come into our floor plan view. I'm going to select that, that block I added, and then I'm just going to bump it into position. And now that it's in position, I'm actually going to unblock it so that we can select all those individual components individually. So there, if you need to make any other modifications to it, you could. And that's going to complete this wall over on this side. So next, we are going to add an island into the plan. And then we're going to show how the software can be used to quickly create various island design options for your client. We have 4 options here. The first has a basic 9-inch overhang. The second option is going to curve that overhang. You can then make that a 6-inch block if you wanted to. We'll press undo a couple of times to get back to this step. And then we'll take a look at waterfalling. So 4 options here with the island countertops. Another option you might have observed from the photo is our backsplash. There's the bell-shaped backsplash we made as an option. And then there's also an option which has a wall niche behind the range as well. So let's first start this by adding our island into the plan. And the first thing I'm going to do is rotate my 3D view kind of into the center of the screen. And then next I'm going to come over to my user catalog, and I've got a folder that says island. You can see I have 2 island options actually saved off that you can show the client. I'm just going to place the first island in, and you can see how it got added there. I'm going to close the library browser, and then next let's go back to our floor plan view. Make sure we have it centered over the range, and then if you wanted to use your manual dimension tools and make sure you have it dimensioned appropriately from your range or your cabinets over here, you can. I'm just going to accept it how it is. And if we go back to our 3D view, you can see that we need to make some adjustments to the materials to match. If I select the island, I can actually unblock it so it's not an architectural block. And then you can select all these different components individually. Next, let's make those materials match. So we already learned how to do that once with the material eyedropper. Select the material you want to use, and then you just apply it to your cabinets. And before we do that, you'll recall that we set our distribution mode at the very beginning to be object-wide. We're going to change it now to be room-wide so that when we apply it, it's going to swap out that white material that's on our cabinet anywhere in this room. So one click, all the materials on the cabinet are updated, and then now we're ready to make modifications to the island. Just to recap, our first option is going to be a 9-inch overhang. You'll also recall that cabinets automatically generate, or excuse me, countertops automatically generate on top of your cabinet boxes in Chief Architect. If I hold Control, I'm going to select these 3 cabinets right here. There's a button down here that says Generate Custom Countertop. And what that's going to do is it's going to separate the program acknowledging that countertop automatically with the box so that you can select it separately and adjust it. So now I've got just this countertop selected, And you can see that little red square handle letting me know which edge I'm going to be modifying. And if I select it and drag it out, I can press Tab, and then I can tell the program how far I want to extend that. I know that the countertop was already overhanging by 1 inch, so we're going to add another 8 inches to it so that it's overhanging a total of 9 inches. Press OK. You see how that's looking in our 3D view, just how you like it. You could also adjust that if you needed to. So that's the first option. The second option was going to be a curve at the front of this countertop. We already learned how to do that earlier when we made our backsplash. You select the object. You see I have that edge selected. Select the curve tool. It curves, and once again it has that same handle down here that you can use to adjust the radius. Our third option we're going to show is going to have a thick block. So let's go ahead and make that change. I'm going to press undo to get back to where we have just our straight edge. And to make that 6 inches thick is really easy. Double click on that countertop to open it up. There's an option here for thickness, and then you just tell the program how thick you want it. Click OK. And now that countertop is our desired thickness. So the last option we're going to show is going to be waterfalling it down either side. So our countertop is 6 inches thick. It comes over here and then it goes to the floor. And the countertop on the sides is 6 inches thick. So we need our overhang to be overhanging a total distance of 6 inches. Super easy to do that. Select the countertop. You can see I have that edge, and then we're just going to extend it and press Tab again. Once again, we're already overhanging by 1 inch, so you tell the program you want to overhang another 5 inches to overhang a total of 6 inches. And then same thing to the other side over here, another 5 inches. And you can see how that countertop's starting to shape up. And what we need to do next is we're going to use our custom countertop tool, and we're going to draw in a countertop starting in about this space, going up 34.5 inches, which is going to be that cabinet box height, and it's going to be resting underneath this countertop right here. So to do that, I'm going to go to our floor plan view. I'm going to focus in just on this area, and then under our kitchen and bath design tools, there's an option for custom countertop. Just click and marquee in this area, and you can see how I've added this countertop. And I'm going to select it, open it up. We're going to set the thickness here like we did earlier. And let's take a look at that in our standard view. You can see that texture on the countertop. And then next we need to tell the program we want it to start at the finished floor. Click on OK once you're happy with those changes. If you look in our 3D view, we now have that block going from the floor to the underside of the overhang. And then we're just going to do what we learned how to do earlier in copying and reflecting it to the other side. So let's select it, copy, reflect about, and then reflect it about to the other side over there. And then that's going to be all the changes we make to this countertop. You'll recall that the material from the photo is the white material. I'm going to use that object eyedropper tool we've been using. Select that material from the backsplash. Notice how in the bottom left-hand corner my distribution mode is room wide. So if I select this countertop right here, it's going to change that material anywhere that it's at in the plan. So we need to change this to be just on the component. And there we've got that countertop updated. So what we did there is we quickly showed 4 design options for the customer. They can pick out one that really fits their style. It's going to have various pricing points, so you can maximize the value of the project. And then at the end of the day, the customer is going to be happy. So next, I want to go over various 3D rendering techniques in the software. What we've been working in right now is considered our standard rendering technique. You can come up here, and there's an option for a vector view. That's a nice way to help show the design to the client, and that essentially just removes the textures from the plan. There's also an option right here called a glass house, and this is kind of a fun one because you can see through various objects and see what's going on in the design. So you'll notice here that I have a trash bin pull-out. You can see those bins through the cabinet. You can also show this pulled out in your 3D view. If you select this, there's an option right here for show open, and it's going to pull that out. Another way you can help the customer visualize the design. There's a couple other artistic rendering techniques. This one's a watercolor rendering technique. A lot of people like it just because it's another interesting view you can show the customer and help impress them with your business and the design. And then there's also an option right here for a line drawing. How some people use a line drawing is you'll notice there that there's no materials in our plan. So at this point, the customer's focusing more on the shape and the aesthetics of the design and not getting bogged down picking out material options at this point. So that's going to be conclude showing the design we made in the software. As we wrap up this webinar, feel free to chat in any questions that you may have. I wanted to go through another few great technology options to help impress your client and sell the job. Chief Architect has virtual reality compatibility. So if you have a virtual reality station in your showroom and use an HTC Vive or an Oculus Rift, you can have your client put on a VR headset and be immersed in a first-person point of view in the design, and then they can move around and walk around the model. So that's one way you can help impress your client. Another great technology option offered by Chief Architect is a free mobile app we have called the 3D Viewer. I'm actually going to play a short clip to show how this works. But essentially what it is you export the 3D Chief Architect model out of the program, and then on a tablet they can maneuver through the design using their fingers, and they can also hold their tablet in a first-person point of view and physically walk through the model as you would in the real world. You can use the camera on your tablet to insert your live surroundings as a backdrop. And there's other great features in the app. It's a free app on the App Store if you're interested in downloading it. So it's another fun way your client can interact with the design that maybe your competition isn't using, and you can ultimately help sell the job to the client. So that's going to conclude the content I had for this webinar. I want to thank Debbie and the NKBA for hosting the webinar. I would like to thank everyone for attending and taking time out of your busy day to see how easy it is to use 3D design software. If anyone's interested in test driving our software, you can download a free trial from our website. And if you have any questions, feel free to chat them in, or you can email me or give us a call to get any questions you might have answered. So that's going to be the content that I had, and now we'll open it up for questions.
Well, thank you so much, Philip. That has been fantastic. I was very impressed with the walkthrough. It was so very helpful.
Thanks,
and
Debbie.
I'm sure. Oh, you're welcome. It's really well done. So there are questions. They've been coming in, so I'm going to start with them. Is there a way to create a 36-inch square corner default cabinet? This is when, demonstrating the beginning about cabinets.
Sure. So if he's referring to more of a blind corner cabinet, there's some automatic features that you can use to do that. I'm not going to show them because they take quite a few steps, and we have other questions, I'm sure. But essentially, you can bump that cabinet into the corner, stretch it out, and then modify the face of the cabinet so that half the cabinet is kind of a blank area, and then the other half would have your door to reach into it.
Okay, great. So yep, there's another one here. Someone has, I have Home Designer Pro, this person says. Does that program work the same as Chief Architect?
Yep, so Home Designer Pro is Chief Architect's DIY consumer level program based off the same user interface of the Chief Architect program we've been using today. So how about drawing walls and changing materials and things like that are going to be the same, but the Home Designer Pro is going to be lacking some of those more professional level features like the automatic NKBA dimensions that we went through today. There is compatibility with Chief Architect using Home Designer Pro, and there's also upgrade options available for moving to Chief Architect. And if you need any additional information about that, it's probably best to reach out direct.
Okay, here's another one. Back to the cabinet. How can we make just a 90-degree corner cabinet? Is that possible?
Yeah, so just like a 90-degree corner cabinet up, I'm assuming kind of in this area down here is what he's referring to. Just like we did for the wall cabinets, you would double click on it to open it up. There's an option right here that says diagonal door, and you uncheck that and then click on OK, and there it makes it that pie cut 90 degree.
Okay. There's a lot of questions, so I'm going to keep rolling. And here's
Okay.
another question. How do you unlock the item height of a drawer of a cabinet? I'm not sure if you've talked about that. So
The
how do you
item height of a drawer cabinet. So when you place the cabinet, I'll just place one over here to show. All right, so when you place a cabinet and open it up, and you go to this front sides back panel, you'll notice that the options in the middle are grayed out because they're using your initial program defaults. If you select from this drop-down, you can specify that's going to be a custom face. And you'll notice that some of the icons, some of these items have locks next to them. Once you select in the cabinet, there's an option down here that says lock from auto resize. So if you have a cabinet, like a full height cabinet's a better example, and it's got doors and drawers or an appliance in it, you might want to lock that, check that button, especially if you have an appliance in there, so that doesn't auto resize it.
Okay. Here's another one. If you are using a custom cabinet company that does not have their line architect software, can you have access to other custom lines for design purposes?
Yeah, great question. So we work with a ton of manufacturers to get their content available in the software, but there's lots of cabinet companies out there, and if there is a line that we don't carry, there's a few options. The first is you can use any of the other cabinet manufacturers that we offer. On our website at chiefarchitect.com, if you come over to User Center, there's a section that says Catalog Downloads. And so here you can see all the content available with the software. There's a section that says cabinets, and then from here you can download manufacturer content. And if there's a catalog that we don't have, you can oftentimes find manufacturer offerings offered by someone else that looks similar. And what you can do is you can add the various doors and drawers and so forth to your user library, and you can modify them, you can rename them and so forth to create your own custom library for that manufacturer. And if there is somebody that you want us to have and we don't have, please email us the name of that manufacturer, and if you have a rep there, include their information so that we can reach out to them and see if we can get them added to the software.
Okay. And here's another question. Is ray trace much more photorealistic than regular rendering?
Yep, good question. So I've been using the standard rendering technique in the webinar. This is a good rendering technique because it's not that intensive on your computer and it still shows a very high amount of detail. If you take a look at this photo, you'll notice that there's an even greater level of detail, like reflections coming off of the countertop, reflections off of the stove. Let's see here. Maybe a little bit hard to tell since the photos are smaller, but there's a higher level of detail in the grout in our tiles, whereas that level of detail might not quite be there with the standard rendering technique. Ray tracing produces a still photo of the scene, so like just a JPEG image you would open like I have here. And ray tracing is a little bit more intensive on your computer, but it does produce the higher level of quality of image.
Okay. Do you have any online training videos for understanding some of the things that you were not able to cover today?
Yeah, great question. So one of the real benefits of Chief Architect is there is a large amount of training resources all available for free to use. And they're not behind any sort of paid wall or login or anything. If you just download the trial, you can access them. So over at the website, there's an option right here that says Getting Started Resources. There's going to be a playlist right here called the Quick Start videos, and this covers the fundamentals of the software, so you can kind of figure out the basics of it. Down here, you can view all of our training videos. There's over 700 videos available. There's over 500 articles. We at Chief Architect hold weekly demos on Friday. There's manuals and a user forum, so there's a lot of great resources you can use to learn more about the software.
That's great to know. So here we're going to go back to that rendering. What material do you have on the refrigerator, and can you convert it to panels that match the cabinet?
Yeah, so there is a material, there's a tool in the feature called Adjust Material Definition up in your toolbar. You'll sometimes hear it referred to by other users or even us at Chief Architect as the rainbow tool because it's kind of got stripes like a rainbow. If you select it and then click on a material, it allows you to adjust properties about this material. It looks like this one is just a white paneled fridge material, but you can just pick other materials from your user library and apply it directly on here. You could also use the material eyedropper, and if you wanted like your stainless steel to be on that fridge, you could apply that to the fridge as well.
Okay. Someone's asking, as a small design studio without a showroom, I knew this would come up. Can you give me a ballpark idea of the cost?
Yeah, so there's a couple options for pricing for the program. So first of all, we offer two programs, Chief Architect Premier, which is our flagship program, and Chief Architect Interiors. I was using Chief Architect Premier today, but everything we did you could do in Chief Architect Interiors. And the real difference between the two programs is going to be more structural tools. So things like framing and landscaping and decks. Those would be in Premier, but not the Interiors version. For Interiors, you can purchase it as a one-time outright purchase for $2,195. You can also rent it for $199 a month, and you're not locked into a contract or anything like that on the rental, so you can rent it to get your feet wet and make sure it's going to be a good option for you. If you want to rent it with the intent of owning it, you can rent it for 13 consecutive months and you would own the software license outright. And you can also start your rental at that $199 a month, make sure it's going to work out for what you do. And then if you find that you like it, you can give us a call and do what we call a rental buyout. And out of that $199 each month, about $170, give or take, gets applied towards that $21.95 price.
Okay. There's still a lot of questions, so I'll keep going.
Keep them coming.
Can you demonstrate, let me hold on a second, that one bumped away. Can you demonstrate how you adjust tile layout in Backsplash? It says your current layout shows a tiny cut at countertop, which would not be desirable. Can you move it up to a full height tile at the countertop?
Yep, so the question is referring to what's going on right here in this area of the plan. So you can adjust where the start and end points of the tile are. I'm going to get into my wall elevation, and it actually doesn't look bad in our wall elevation. So what we would do actually is use that same Adjust Material Definition tool. Click on the material, and then here you can adjust where that material starts and where it stops. If I come over to the offset, you can adjust the vertical offset. You could use your manual dimension tools in an elevation tool view to adjust that. But here you can update where that's starting. And actually, I think I need to go to this panel. Let's take a look at those changes. Probably too incremental to notice, but essentially you would just adjust where these offsets are and get them positioned, get your material positioned how you would like to through there. So there you can see I bumped it up. Let's actually move that back down, maybe an inch or so, maybe a little bit more than an inch. See how it's kind of updating in our little preview there. So that would be the process in general to get that material, that starting point of the material where you would need it.
Great. Then is there a way to render the plan more than the standard options in the program, the way that SketchUp or Revit does?
Yeah, so the ray tracing feature, I'm not going to show that because it takes, it's more computer intensive. But the ray tracing feature would be the highest quality of render that we have. There's also physically based rendering, which is another high quality rendering technique. And then there are companies out there that just make 3D rendering software. And if you prefer to use another program, you can export this as a Collada file, a 3ds, a few other kind of industry standard 3D file formats, and then do your rendering in another application if you would prefer.
Great. There was a question here about printing and printing with personalized branding.
Okay. Yeah, so let me bring up my picture real quick. So you'll notice in my layout sheet how you have a title block and then the project name and a little description as to what this page is and then other information about it. In the software, you can create layout sheets and you can just import pictures of your logo and then add your address and other pieces of information that would be the same from project over project. And then once you kind of have your initial layout sheet created, you can save it as what we call your template layout sheet. And then every time you have a new project and you need a new layout sheet, this sheet's already there and ready to go, and it has your company information and your branding just already on it.
Okay, and here's another question that kind of fits with that. Would you be able to pull builder specifications from the plans to linear square footage for purchasing or countertop templating?
So you can do things like getting your square footage. I'm not going to show this in the software because it takes a little bit to set up, but there's features that will provide automatic calculations of things like your flooring that you're using. You can also create a materials list in our software. It'll display how much countertop you're using and the number of tiles that you're using. It'll display your cabinet boxes and the number of pulls and things like that that you would need to go out and purchase.
Okay. So here's a good one. There's so many questions here, unfortunately. I don't think we're going to be able to answer them. But so someone's saying they're currently using SketchUp, but what is the learning curve to use your product? Do you have a ballpark?
Yeah, good question. So in general, Chief Architect has a strong reputation of being pretty user-friendly and easy to pick up and learn. And I think one of the things that benefits to that is, one, all those training resources we mentioned earlier are available for free on our website. And then two, kind of what reflects in the quality of the program and just the ease of use of it is our company, Chief Architects, we're located in Idaho, and everything our company does is located in one office. So that's going to be all of our quality control, testing, software development, technical support, marketing, even like our HR accounting. Everything we do is done under one roof. We don't outsource anything to other companies or other offices or even other countries or anything like that. And I think it really reflects just in the quality of the software, making sure our features are the best that they can be for the users, and just helping minimize that learning curve. I'd recommend downloading the free trial from our website. You have access to all those training resources to dip your toes in it and just see how easy it is to use.
Yeah, great. That's great, Philip. And I'll send that information to everybody. Unfortunately, we're at time, and we couldn't get to everyone's questions, but we'll definitely send you the information about the trial, and we'll send all of you the information about how to reach Philip for additional questions. And we'll have the recording, and I want to thank Gebert for our sponsorship for today's session and all of November's sessions. And again, thank you so much, Philip. This has been really, really a great presentation today. You did a wonderful job. And
thanks, Debbie. And if anyone's interested, the trial link is up there on the screen, and my information's up there, so you can reach out if we weren't able to get to your question today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.